It's time we had a real conversation. Stop being the nice person. Yes, I said it. The world has enough nice people. What we need are real people, bold people, authentic people. You see, being nice is often just a disguise. It's not about kindness. It's not about compassion. It's about pleasing, appeasing, and avoiding conflict, avoiding discomfort, avoiding truth. Being nice is often celebrated as a virtue, something we are encouraged to embody from a young age. We are taught to be polite, agreeable, and accommodating, traits that many associate with kindness and goodness. But the truth is that being nice is not always what it seems. Often what we call being nice is actually a form of passivity, a way to avoid conflict rather than a genuine expression of care or kindness. When we constantly prioritize being nice, we may sacrifice our own voice, our true feelings, and our needs. This passivity can lead us down a path of frustration, resentment, and even self-neglect. It's important to understand the difference between being nice and being truly kind, because while kindness requires strength and authenticity, niceness often masks fear and avoidance. When someone is nice, they typically act in ways that keep others happy or comfortable, even if it means suppressing their own opinions or desires. This kind of behavior is motivated less by empathy and more by a desire to be accepted or liked. It's the person who agrees with everything in a meeting to avoid rocking the boat, the friend who says yes to every request, even when overwhelmed, or the partner who never speaks up about their needs for fear of causing tension. These behaviors may seem harmless or even admirable on the surface, but underneath lies a passive stance that avoids difficult conversations and genuine emotional exchange. Instead of addressing problems or asserting boundaries, the nice person accommodates and appeases, hoping that by doing so everything will stay peaceful. However, this peace is often fragile, built on unspoken frustrations and ignored truths. True kindness, on the other hand, requires courage and honesty. Kindness means caring deeply about others, but also about oneself. It means recognizing that sometimes being kind involves saying no, setting boundaries, or speaking uncomfortable truths. When you are truly kind, you don't sacrifice your integrity to keep others happy. Instead, you approach relationships and interactions with authenticity and respect, both for yourself and for the other person. Kindness is active, not passive. It engages with the complexity of human needs and emotions, rather than smoothing them over with superficial niceness. The problem with being nice as a form of passivity is that it creates a disconnect between what you feel and what you express. Over time, this gap widens, and you may find yourself trapped in a cycle of suppressing your emotions, which can lead to resentment and bitterness. The nice person often carries unspoken burdens, silently enduring situations that they wish were different. This internal tension can damage mental health and relationships because it prevents genuine communication and growth. People around you may sense this disconnect, even if they don't fully understand it, and it can lead to misunderstandings or a lack of true intimacy. Moreover, being nice often means giving away your power. When you consistently prioritize others' comfort over your own truth, you diminish your ability to advocate for yourself. This can cause you to be overlooked or taken advantage of, as others may unconsciously expect you to always yield or accommodate. Over time, this dynamic erodes self-confidence and self-worth. You start to believe that your needs are less important, or that your voice doesn't matter. This is the exact opposite of what kindness should do. It should uplift and empower, not diminish. It's also important to recognize that niceness can sometimes be manipulative, even if unintentionally. When people are nice just to maintain a certain image or avoid consequences, their behavior is less about genuine care and more about control through appeasement. This kind of niceness can feel hollow to those on the receiving end, who may sense the lack of authenticity beneath the surface. Authentic kindness invites real connection, whereas passive niceness keeps people at arm's length, maintaining superficial harmony instead of deeper understanding. To break free from the trap of niceness as passivity, it requires a shift in mindset and behavior. It means embracing the discomfort that comes with honesty and assertiveness. It means learning to say no without guilt, to express your true feelings respectfully, and to set boundaries that protect your well-being. This shift is not easy, especially if you have been conditioned to believe that being liked is more important than being authentic, but the payoff is enormous. When you stop being nice in the passive sense and start being kind in the true sense, you reclaim your voice and your power. You build relationships based on mutual respect and genuine care, rather than obligation and fear. You create space for your own growth and happiness, and you invite others to do the same. In essence, being nice often means choosing passivity over authenticity, avoidance over courage, and pleasing over truth. Recognizing this is the first step toward transforming how you relate to yourself and others. It is a call to move beyond superficial harmony and to embrace the deeper, messier, but far more rewarding path of genuine kindness. People-pleasing is often mistaken for being a good person. It's painted as selfless, generous, and loving, but in reality, it can quietly and systematically destroy your sense of self-respect. When your identity becomes entangled with making others happy, you slowly start erasing your own needs, desires, and values. What begins as small compromises, saying yes when you want to say no, staying silent to keep the peace, or overcommitting to avoid disappointing someone, eventually becomes a pattern of self-abandonment. The cost is high and often invisible until you find yourself feeling empty, resentful, or disconnected from who you really are. At its core, people-pleasing is rooted in fear. It's the fear of rejection, of judgment, of not being liked or accepted. It's a survival strategy, often developed early in life, where you learn that keeping others happy ensures approval, love, or safety. But as you grow older, this strategy begins to backfire. You start living for the approval of others, instead of living in alignment with your own truth. You say what you think people want to hear, you do what's expected even if it drains you, and you suppress your own voice to avoid confrontation. In the process, you lose clarity about who you really are, because your choices are driven by external validation instead of internal conviction. Self-respect is built through honoring your boundaries, standing in your truth, and acting in ways that align with your values. Every time you ignore your intuition just to keep someone else comfortable, you send a subtle message to yourself. Your needs don't matter. Over time, this erodes your self-esteem. You stop trusting your own judgment. You begin to doubt your worth outside of what you can do for others. And the worst part, people start to expect that from you. They come to rely on your compliance, your silence, your willingness to bend, so much so that the moment you assert yourself, they're shocked, offended, or even angry. This dynamic creates a dangerous loop. You give more than you can afford to give because you fear rejection. You become resentful but keep quiet because confrontation feels too risky. Then when you finally reach a breaking point and try to stand up for yourself, you may feel guilt or shame because you've so deeply tied your value to how others feel about you. This inner conflict becomes exhausting. You're constantly torn between wanting to be true to yourself and wanting to be liked. That tug of war steals your peace and clouds your sense of identity. Another destructive aspect of people-pleasing is that it often leads to being taken for granted. When you always say yes, people stop asking if you're okay with something. When you never express frustration, people assume you're fine. When you never set boundaries, people feel entitled to your time and energy. It's not that they're all malicious. It's that you've trained them to expect compliance, and now any deviation from that feels like a betrayal. In this way, people-pleasing doesn't just harm you. It distorts your relationships. They become based on what you can give, not who you are. People-pleasing is also deceptive because it wears the mask of kindness, but true kindness is honest. It respects both you and the other person. It doesn't avoid hard conversations or pretend everything is fine. It holds space for truth, even when it's uncomfortable. People-pleasing, by contrast, avoids discomfort at all costs. It prioritizes short-term harmony over long-term health, and while it might win you temporary approval, it comes at the cost of your authenticity and your inner peace. Eventually, you may wake up one day and realize you don't recognize yourself. Your decisions are made based on what others want. Your schedule is filled with obligations you didn't want to accept. Your voice is buried under layers of politeness and fear. And that's when the pain of people-pleasing becomes undeniable, because no amount of external praise can fill the void left by abandoning yourself. To regain self-respect, you have to stop measuring your worth by how happy you make others. You have to risk being misunderstood, disliked, or even rejected. It's not easy, it's uncomfortable, and sometimes lonely, but it's the only path back to yourself. Every time you speak your truth, set a boundary, or say no with conviction, you build self-respect, and in the long run, self-respect is far more fulfilling than the fleeting approval of people who only love the version of you that's easy, agreeable, and always available. The world respects strength, not softness. This statement may sound harsh, but it holds a painful truth about how society functions. In almost every area of life, career, relationships, leadership, influence, what gets noticed, valued, and rewarded is strength. People admire those who stand tall in adversity, those who speak with conviction, those who take action without hesitation. Softness, though often confused with weakness, is too frequently dismissed, overlooked, or even exploited. We live in a world that moves fast, values results, and often has little patience for those who don't assert themselves clearly and powerfully. If you're always trying to avoid conflict, if you're always playing nice, if you're always bending to fit in or be accepted, you're likely not being respected. You're being tolerated at best, and at worst used. Strength isn't just about physical toughness or loud opinions. Real strength is internal. It's the ability to say no when it's easier to say yes. It's the willingness to speak uncomfortable truths when silence would be safer. It's the courage to walk away from situations that don't align with your values, even when that means losing something or someone in the process. Strength is about boundaries, clarity, decisiveness, and integrity. It doesn't ask for permission, and it doesn't apologize for its presence. That kind of power makes people listen, it commands attention, and most importantly, it earns respect. Softness, on the other hand, when not paired with strength, becomes vulnerability without protection. It's not that softness is bad. In fact, empathy, gentleness, and compassion are essential qualities in any healthy human being. But when softness is all you lead with, and you lack the strength to defend your values, assert your needs, or hold your ground, you become easy to dismiss. The world doesn't slow down to accommodate softness. In high-pressure environments, in competitive spaces, in moments of crisis, it's strength that people look to. They look for those who won't flinch under pressure, those who can handle hard truths and make hard decisions. Being soft alone doesn't prepare you for that. Being only soft is like walking into a storm with no shelter. You get swept away. People respect those who carry themselves with certainty. You can be kind, but if you can't hold a boundary, that kindness is seen as a weakness. You can be generous, but if you let people take advantage of you, that generosity loses its value. Respect is built when you demonstrate that while you might care deeply, you will not bend so far that you lose yourself. When you have strength, people think twice before crossing you. They may not always like you, but they respect the line you draw, and respect is what sustains influence over time, not likability, not being the one who makes everyone feel good, but being the one who stands firm when it matters. In workplaces, it's often not the most talented or intelligent people who rise. It's those who are the most assertive. It's those who advocate for themselves, who speak up even when they're afraid, who make themselves seen and heard. In relationships, the person who values themselves enough to say, "This is what I need, and I won't accept less," sets the tone for how they are treated. That's strength in action. And while softness can create connection, it's strength that maintains respect within that connection. Without it, your voice can be drowned out, your needs dismissed, and your presence taken for granted. Even in times of change or hardship, people are drawn to strength. They want leaders who don't panic, who don't crumble, who stay focused and grounded when everything feels uncertain. No one looks to the person who is nice, but unsure. They look to the one who exudes calm certainty. That's the person others follow. That's the person they remember. And in the end, that's the person they respect. So while softness has its place in humanity and connection, it must be rooted in strength to truly make an impact. Without strength, softness becomes silence. Without strength, kindness becomes compliance. And without strength, you will be overlooked by a world that doesn't reward passivity. It rewards presence, niceness. When it's more about preserving a certain image than genuine care or character, becomes manipulative. It may not look that way on the surface. After all, a smile, a polite gesture, a compliment, these are all socially acceptable behaviors. But when someone is being nice, purely to be seen a certain way, to avoid conflict, or to control how others perceive them, it ceases to be authentic. Instead, it becomes a calculated performance. It's not about connection, it's about control. It's not about honesty, it's about hiding. When someone acts nice out of fear of being disliked, or because they want to be seen as a good person, it's no longer kindness, it's image management.
It's a subtle form of manipulation dressed in politeness. This kind of niceness is rooted in ego and insecurity. It's about ensuring people don't see your flaws, your anger, your limits, or your truth. You might smile and agree with someone, even when you completely disagree. You might offer help or praise, not because it's sincere, but because you want to be seen as helpful or generous. You might avoid saying what needs to be said, just to keep your likable reputation intact. In these moments, niceness is no longer about the other person, it's about you. It's about preserving how others view you. That's manipulation, even if it's socially accepted, and even encouraged in many environments. This image-driven niceness also creates a disconnect between what you feel and what you show. You may feel frustration, but you pretend everything is fine. You may feel overwhelmed, but you smile and say no problem. You may disagree with someone's behavior, but you keep quiet to avoid being seen as difficult. This creates a false front, a version of yourself that isn't real, but is more socially palatable. People may like that version of you, but deep down, you know it's not really you they're liking, and that realization can be isolating, because you're not building relationships based on who you truly are, you're building them based on who you think you need to be in order to be accepted. Over time, this kind of behavior can lead to internal resentment. You start to feel like you're being used or misunderstood, but the reality is, you've trained people to treat you this way. You've taught them that you'll always say yes, that you'll never push back, that you'll always be pleasant even when things aren't okay. So when you eventually do try to speak up or draw a boundary, it shocks people. They push back, or accuse you of being selfish, because you've broken character. The image you built with niceness becomes a trap. It keeps you from being honest, from being bold, from being free. This performative niceness also leads to a fear-based existence. Every interaction becomes a balancing act, trying to say the right thing, do the right thing, avoid upsetting anyone. Your energy is consumed with maintaining appearances, and it becomes exhausting. You may appear composed and agreeable on the outside, but inside you're anxious, frustrated, or emotionally drained. That emotional dissonance takes a toll on your well-being. It's difficult to feel at peace when your outer behavior constantly betrays your inner truth. Another problem with image-driven niceness is that it can come across as inauthentic, even if people can't always pinpoint why. There's something about overly nice behavior that feels off to others. It can seem rehearsed or forced. People are intuitive. They can feel when someone is being real versus when they're being polite out of obligation or fear. And when people sense that dissonance, they may not trust you fully. They might question your sincerity or feel unsure about your intentions. So ironically, in trying so hard to be liked and accepted, you can actually push people away or create shallow relationships that lack real depth. When you are nice only to protect your image, you're not serving others. You're serving your own discomfort. You're avoiding the vulnerability that comes with being honest and real. You're dodging the discomfort of possibly being disliked or misunderstood. But growth, connection, and respect don't come from people liking a polished, edited version of you. They come from people seeing who you really are, your opinions, your limits, your truth, and still choosing to connect with you. Being genuinely kind sometimes means being firm, disagreeing, holding people accountable, or walking away. It means being authentic, even if that makes others uncomfortable. When you let go of being nice as a costume, and instead focus on being honest and compassionate, you stop manipulating how others see you, and start living as your true self. And that kind of realness, even if not always liked, is what earns deep respect and builds true connections. Real growth demands discomfort and confrontation. This is one of the hardest truths for people to accept, especially in a world that increasingly encourages ease, convenience, and instant gratification. But the reality is that no meaningful transformation happens in your comfort zone. Growth is not about staying safe, being liked, or avoiding pain. It's about stepping into spaces that challenge your beliefs, test your limits, and expose your weaknesses. It's about facing yourself honestly, including the parts you'd rather ignore. The path to becoming stronger, wiser, and more authentic is paved with difficult conversations, painful realizations, and uncomfortable decisions. Without discomfort and confrontation, there is no shift, there is only stagnation. People often want to grow, but they don't want to be uncomfortable. They want better relationships, but avoid the hard talks. They want confidence, but refuse to face the fear. They want success, but resist the grind, the rejection, and the emotional risk that come with it. But growth isn't a product of ease. It's the result of pressure, heat, and tension. Just like a muscle only strengthens when pushed to its limits, your mind, character, and emotional intelligence only develop when you allow yourself to be stretched. You grow when you're willing to confront your own habits, beliefs, and patterns, even the ones that have kept you safe or earned you praise, especially those. Discomfort is not something to be feared or avoided. It's a signal that something new is trying to emerge. When you feel uncomfortable, it means you're being pulled out of the familiar. It means your boundaries are being tested, and your identity is being challenged. That feeling of unease is often the beginning of a breakthrough, but most people back down at the first sign of discomfort. They silence themselves to avoid conflict. They cling to old routines to feel in control. They stay in relationships that no longer serve them just to avoid the pain of leaving, but in doing so, they choose short-term comfort over long-term evolution. Confrontation is another necessary ingredient in the growth process, and not just confrontation with others, but with yourself. Growth requires brutal honesty. You have to look at who you are, what you've avoided, how you've held yourself back, and the role you've played in your own pain. That takes courage. It's far easier to blame circumstances or other people than to own your part in the story, but the moment you start confronting your own truth, you reclaim your power. You stop being a passive character in your life and start taking an active role in your transformation. Confrontation also means speaking up when it's hard. It means telling someone how you really feel, even if it shakes the foundation of the relationship. It means setting boundaries that might disappoint others, but protect your integrity. It means addressing problems directly, instead of hoping they disappear. Confrontation isn't about being aggressive or unkind. It's about valuing truth over comfort, and every time you choose truth, even when your voice trembles, you build the inner strength that fuels lasting growth. Many people are afraid of discomfort because they associate it with failure or rejection, but the truth is, discomfort is not the enemy. Complacency is avoiding discomfort keeps you stuck in the same cycles, unhappy in your job, unfulfilled in your relationships, disconnected from your purpose. You might be comfortable, but you're not evolving. Growth means trading in comfort for clarity, security for self-respect, and approval for authenticity. It's not always easy to welcome discomfort and confrontation. They often come with fear, uncertainty, and loss, but they also come with breakthroughs, healing, and a deeper connection to your true self. You begin to trust your own resilience. You stop being afraid of challenge because you understand that struggle is the soil in which growth takes root. Every uncomfortable experience is an invitation to rise, to level up your thinking, your boundaries, your courage, and your identity. And the more you lean into that discomfort instead of running from it, the more you discover who you really are and what you're capable of becoming.